Hello everyone. So today we're going to have a look at chapter 5 out of the Text and Text book, the higher level junior sub book for statistics, basically looking at the collection of data. So we're going to look at what types of different data there is, how it can be collected, how it's organised, fair ways of doing things, removing bias, that sort of stuff. Look at a few keywords and so on. So basically, what is statistics first of all? Okay, so if we think about any company, business, government, organizations, all of that, they all want to make informed decisions from day to day. So they need information, they need data to be able to inform them. So we'll get an example now of, say, iPhone. Apple are releasing a new iPhone. And consideration this time is being given to whether the iPhone should be made larger or made smaller. So what are the opinions of the public? Are they happy that the phone size currently is what they want, or would the general public prefer they stop manufacturing the current size and went for a bigger or went for a smaller, so on and so forth? All right. Other types of situations where data is collected, and I suppose it's been in the news the whole time now, it's all we're hearing these days, is to do with the coronavirus and COVID-19. So NEFIT are constantly making recommendations, they're updating the public on the spread of the virus within the population. So that is based on statistics. They're collecting information, the number of people within the communities that have COVID-19, and they're able to inform on decisions in the best interest of public health. So there are some of the examples of what and where statistics are used. They're used countless other avenues, but they're some of the main ones. So what I would, for these videos, I'm going to go through, this one is a bit more in just, it's very much information delivery rather than actually working with problems and questions and going through the likes of that. So this is basically just an outline of what stats is, and there's a few key points that we have to learn from this and be able to give back again and come up with our own ideas of proper questions and that sort of stuff. So just starting out, all right, stats, what is it? Okay, so stats for short for statistics, all right. It's a collection of data. So it's a collection of data for scientific study. So it uses information to allow various organizations to make recommendations. So example, what we're going to say, maybe say COVID numbers. So COVID numbers within the population. All right, so NEFIT are able to use stats on COVID figures to best assess what is the safest way to go about doing things. All right, so that's basically what stats is. So if we have a look here at various different types of data, all right, so we have two main different types, which is further divided down again. Okay, so any data that you personally go out and collect yourself and gather yourself is what's referred to as primary data, and any data that you're using that somebody else has generated, we'll say, is known as secondary data. So you've got primary data collected by yourself, secondary data, somebody else has done the work for you. Within that then whole umbrella of data, there's two further categories. If it deals with numbers, okay, so number of cars passing the road, it's numerical data. If it relates to categories, so favorite color, favorite sport, subjects that you study at in school, categorical data. All right, so we're just going to basically draw this out a little bit more in so far as that we want to be able to break down both our numerical and our categorical a little further. All right, so if we just put up the overall heading here, data, so that's going to include both our primary and our secondary data. All right, but our data then is broken down into both our numerical, so our numerical data over here, and also then our categorical data. White sugar, blue, so we have numerical and categorical data coming together to form under the main umbrella of data, which comprises of primary and secondary gathered data. Okay, so in our categorical data, all right, we can further define and explain different branches in this tree, if we want to call it that. One here, first of all, we have is ordinal. Ordinal data, and the other type that we want to look at is what we call nominal. So we have ordinal and nominal data within the umbrella of categorical data. So basically, what do we mean by each of these? Well, what we're on about here in ordinal data, order matters. And over here, order does not matter. Okay, so two examples of those would be, say, subjects in school. All right, if I asked you to rank your subjects that you study from your favorite to your least favorite, well, that would be ordinal data that you'd be giving me. It would be ordered, ranked from most to least favorite. If I just asked you to list the subjects that you studied, well, it would be nominal data because the order wouldn't matter there at all. Okay, so that's when we're dealing with categories. If we come over here and we look at our numerical data, so again, this can be further divided up into two avenues here. All right. So we're going to be talking about discrete data and also continuous. Okay, so what do we mean by discrete? What do we mean by continuous? Discrete data, first of all, is data that has a distinct value, okay? So an exact value. Such as the number of cars in a car park, the number of people in a room, right? It's an exact whole figure number, all right? And in red here now, I'm just going to highlight it, it is something that is counted. Okay, so it's something that is counted. So example, as we said there, the people in a car park, or people in a car park, cars in a car park, people in a room, whatever you want. It's an exact figure. Continuous data is something that is put on a scale. All right. And if we want, again, we'll go to red, it is something that is measured. Okay, so for example, so we'll go back to green here for this. So example, person's height, person's weight, shoe size, whatever. Okay, so let's just read back from that again. and make sure that we're happy with this. So, stats, as we said, we know what they are. Types of data, all right? Primary, if you collect it yourself. Secondary, if you're relying on data from other people. Within that overall umbrella of data, we have both numerical and categorical. In our categorical data, if order matters with the categories that you're dealing with, then it is ordinal data. If the order doesn't matter, then it is nominal data. If we're looking over here now at your numerical and dealing with numbers, we have discrete data or continuous data. All right, discrete data is exact values, whole number values, something that is counted. How many legs on the dog, how many people in a room, so forth. All right, it is something that we're counting. Continuous is something that is put on a scale. So it's like temperature, weight, height. It's something that the value of that can fluctuate, millimeters, centimeters, whatever. All right, but the key to that is we're measuring it, not counting something. Okay, and that's basically the breakup, the division of our data. So we'll just go into a different color here. So what I would ask you all to do now here is look at the textbook. We're going to look at the section 5.1, and we're going to have a look at questions 1 to 7. All right. So question 1 to 7 on exercise 5.1, and that's where we leave it for now. Thank you. Okay, so assuming that you had to go at those questions 1 to 7, we're just going to fly through the textbook here just to go through some of the little points on, say, collecting data and so forth. All right, so if we'll have a look, just basically we're going to recap what you might have done there in first year, all right? So collecting data, planning surveys, identifying the different categories. So that should be all fairly straightforward, as well as that from the earlier section of the video. So what we want to move on to is basically collecting data, and we're talking about our questions. So if we're going to be conducting a survey, putting out a questionnaire, we need to think about the questions that we're asking, all right? Now there's a lot of stuff you can read that there in your own time, but basically what we're talking about here is questions ideally should be short, clear, and non-leading. Okay, so what we mean by non-leading is you're not trying to get a particular answer by asking a particular question. So you have to have an open-ended, unbiased question. So your question cannot contain any of your own personal opinions. So you can't say, for instance, Donald Trump was the best president ever, wasn't he? So that is a question where you're asking for basically yes or no answer, but you're conveying your opinion that you think Donald Trump is or was the best president that the US ever had. All right, you can't do that. But what you could do is ask, in your opinion, which best describes Mr. Trump's presidential term? Satisfactory, fair, don't know, so-so, or highly unsatisfied. So you're just given a range of answers for the person to select, rather than transpiring with your own personal opinion. All right. So we've looked down here at our different types of data and our categories. All right. That's just kind of a little flow chart showing your numerical and your categorical. Moving on then, so we've talked a little about surveys and questionnaires, how to word them, all right? Clear, not going to contain any of your own personal opinions, unbiased, and so forth. Experiments, they need to be clear, they need to have kind of set guidelines so that if you're conducting an experiment and you change one variable, that the results are comparable. Questionnaires, so similar to surveys there. All right, avoiding bias. Okay, so again, how do we avoid bias when we're, say, picking a sample? So say if we were to look at a sample of junior students throughout Ireland, and if we were to look for their experience throughout the first lockdown of the pandemic, all right, we want to conduct a survey or conduct something that is going to give us statistical data that will tell us the overall picture in Ireland rather than just in Mayo. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to pick a random sample of students throughout Ireland rather than just a small cohort in one particular area. Because if we looked at kids up in Dublin, there might be potentially more affluent, they might have better resources, IT, broadband, all that within in Dublin. Whereas if you maybe look at Donegal and the remote parts of Donegal, they might have difficulty in accessing the internet. All right, so we need to take a random sample, be it names into a hat, every fourth student on a list, random number generator on your calculator, stuff like that. Okay. And next thing, I suppose you're collecting your data, you're pooling your data together. I suppose the next thing what we'll take and we'll look at is a frequency table. So this here, orange box here, this is an example of a frequency table. All right. What are they talking about here? Surveyed number of cars owned in a household. All right. So no cars, 1 car, 2 car, 3 car, 4 cars. All right. The tally just represents a quick way to be able to record that data without making any errors. All right, so 4 lines and a dash through it represents 5. Okay, so you can see each one of those, there's 5, so 5 and 2 gives us 7, 2 lines is 2, 1 line is 1, so forth. All right, so your tally is just a nice, quick and simple way of recording in the say you might be passing the houses, a nice quick way to record them. Then you tot up then your tally into your frequency, make it nice and neat, and down the bottom always include your total number. All right, so with that being said, I want you to pause the video now. I want you to do exercise 5.3 question 1 to 10. So exercise 5.3 questions 1 to 10. And before we leave it there, all right, I want to take and just get rid of 1 or 2 of this, okay, and I want to just give you 2 further bits of notes. So just before we go there, you have, sorry, now what's going on there? Add a new layer, sorry. All right, so before we go, that work there is exercise 5.3, and it is questions 1 to 10. All right. So that's what you have to do there now. But 2 points here that I want to go through with you, say keywords here. All right, so we'll go for yellow. I haven't used a bit of yellow yet. All right, so population. All right, so what does population mean in terms of statistics? So basically we're talking about the entire, group being studied. Okay, so an example there would be all third-year students in Ireland. So that is the population. That's the overall number of people that we're talking about, we want the opinions of. All right, so that's your population. And if we look at sample, all right, this is a random cohort, all right, from the overall population. Okay, so sample is a random cohort of people from the overall population. So if, I don't know the exact figures, for argument's sake, there's 5,000 junior certs throughout Ireland. We want to conduct a survey. It might not be feasible to survey every one of those 5,000. So we might decide we're going to sample 250 of them. So we're going to randomly select 250 students out of the overall 500 and use the findings from those 250 as a generalization for the entire population. Okay, so as I said, exercise there 5.3, questions 1 to 10. Okay, so the last section we want to look at here is our frequency tables. So as we said, frequency tables is a handy way to collect and compile data out in the field. So imagine we're out standing across some reaps, we're out looking on the main road, and we're going to record the number, or not the number, but the colour of cars as they pass. All right. For argument's sake, there's only 4 colours that have passed: red, blue, green and yellow. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to record out on the field the tally of those as they pass. We'll fill in our frequency then afterwards, and we'll come up with the total number of cars. So as we said, say if you think about prisoners on a wall, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 5 days here. Or the way I like to do it is I make a box and I join the diagonal, and that's equal to 5. Alright, so each side of that box is 1. So say this would here, that would be equal to 2. You know, this is 3, and so forth. All right, you just make a tally system that you're able to understand. The reason I don't like the lines is sometimes the lines can go on top of each other and you're hard to see, oh, have I 3 lines? It's easy to see, well, once you have the box, 4 sides done, the last one is the 5th. All right, so for argument's sake, right, we'll say that there has been 12 red cars passed. All right, so that's 5 of them, and that's 5 more, and then 2 more there. So our frequency there for the red cars is 12. Blue cars, imagine, I would say 8. So there is 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 cars there now. Green, not a popular colour, we'll say 2. All right, yellow, well, I don't know, we'll say 6. So a few Lamborghinis now passing, reaps, pulling out the back, 6 of them. All right, and then what we want to do is our total it down here, 28 cars. All right, so frequency there, you're some sort of tally system that you can have, that you're able to record there like that, writing down what the actual values are equal to, your frequency, adding it up there, and we're getting a total of 28. So that's basically our frequency table. All right, and really from this chapter there's not a lot to it. It's fairly straightforward, a fairly easy one. So the next section now for work here, I want you to do exercise 5.2, and we'll do questions 1 to 12. All right, I also want you to take a look at the test yourself. And do the odd numbers from that section there. Okay, so we have questions 1 to 12 from the exercise 5.2, and also then the test yourself, the odd numbers only. All right, so there's no notes. I've no notes scanned to way of scanning the notes and that. So that's the idea of this video, is to help you with that. We will be having a live class later on in the week. But again, you know, this is what 20-25 minutes of a video, and it covers all of chapter 1 of our statistics. Okay, there should be nothing really too hard in this. I don't think it's a nice easy one to start with, and we'll leave it there with you. Okay, good luck.